Okay, I think we're going live. There's quite a lot to get right here. Good evening. Now, for some reason I can't see the chat box, whether anybody is actually tuning in. So please, if you join me, please say hello and just introduce yourself, I guess. And I'm just going to have a bit of a jam. So please say hello if you're joining, because this is interactive. I'm just going to have a very informal jam to practice as much as anything during this lockdown period. It's about 7:45 here in the UK, so it'd be great if you said hello and told me where you're from and what the time is. I think the United States is about 9 hours before, so I'm guessing about 11 o'clock in the morning. So I'm just going to do a little bit of jamming. I hope I've got the volume levels right. And I'm playing one of my guitars, Broun acoustic, which is linked up to a Roland GR synthesizer, GR55 synthesizer. Takes me a little while to warm up. comment. Unfortunately, I can't see the comments box. I don't know why. Oh yes, Brian. Hello, Brian. And Paul Max. Yeah, Paul, your name is familiar. Hi, you're just down the road from me. And Brian, it's 2:45 p.m. in the US. Well, I hope you enjoy this very informal jam. Really, just practicing, trying to make the best use of lockdown, and just hope if you're watching that you don't have a member of your family or somebody close to you who's got this terrible virus. It's really unreal. I have a feeling it doesn't hit any of us until it hits us, until it hits somebody we know. But if you look at the statistics, and we really have to keep in. I mean, I went out on my bike just to pick up a takeaway, and I stood a couple of meters apart, and I got my exercise, but even that, we just don't know. Hi, Two Wheel Spy again. Thanks for tuning in again. I probably play all the same old stuff, but please use this as a forum for asking me anything or talking even between yourselves. It's like a little mini community. If I can get half a dozen people tuning in and engaging, then I'm a happy bunny. It gives me my dose of human contact today. It's really strange because not out of choice, but I found myself living on my own for many years, and although I work really well on my own, I get a lot done. I do miss the company, which of course when you're younger, the company, well, let's put it this way, it's more available when you're younger. You suddenly find as you get older a lot of things dry up. Anyway, I don't want to bang on about ageism, but certainly everybody's in the same boat at the moment regarding this lockdown, and so playing my acoustic guitar, which has got a few synthesizer effects. Wing it and sing it. Oh, I thought you were commanding me to wing it and sing it, but it's somebody called Wing It and Sing It. I like it. And we've got a few musicians tonight. We've got R. Wind. I don't know whether that's a Robert or a Richard Wind. But I can do wind instruments on this. I can do a little bit of flute and panpipe. So, well, let's do a bit of Pink Floyd, because it's that nice kind of laid back, dreamy music. And just imagine where you want to be at the moment, floating somewhere. You've got a family, you'll spy, but yeah, I know isn't it amazing? It's almost as though the grass is greener. When you're on your own, you want company, and when you're surrounded by people, you need your space. A lot of people tell me they really envy my lifestyle, but which I suppose is my choice at the end of the day, but I don't. Is that our choice? Is that our destiny? But it's important to have space, but also, hi Graham, hope you're feeling well. Thanks for tuning in. I know you probably made quite an effort. Our Wind has just found my channel while we're working. Day 28 of our personal lockdown. Day 28. guitar. No, I didn't go to Bath Spa. Do you mean the university or the waters? I never went to university. I went to the University of Life, and I learned my guitar on the streets of Bath as a busman. I was so bad, I earned 20 pence the first time. Most people would have gone home in shame, but I thought, no, I'm going to stick to this. And it's a great rehearsal room, busking. This happened last time, you couldn't hear my voice. I just can't get the volumes right because the volume seems to be fixed on the microphone. I can try it. Should have set the controls before. Quite complicated, this streaming thing. Right, I'll turn the volume down a bit on the music. Thing is, if I turn the volume down on the music, then I can't hear it through the monitor. Is that a bit better? The volume, the balance should be better now. Oh, great! Thanks for the feedback. You know, my problem is getting feedback because there's lots of things going on. I've got two views of me on the screen. I'm trying to show you the actual finger work for those of you who are guitarists. I want to show you what the left hand's doing and what the right hand's doing, and then a mugshot of me, and to get the volume levels right, plus to see your comments so that you know, that we can be interactive. You know, the music really is a background, it's a backcloth to a chat really. It's basically saying hello and thank you also for those of you who are subscribers to my channel. I earn a tiny bit of money from it, not much, but it all helps. And it's a bit like busking, you know, if nobody pays you at all, then you begin to doubt you're any good. But I mean, of course, some buskers, they earn a fortune, absolute fortune, because they're so bloody brilliant. However, the guitar is a fantastic instrument. You can see on my, this is my untidy office. I'll take you a quick lightning tour. On the left is an Ovation guitar, which I've modified with some extra electronics. Behind it is the classic 1970s Akai 4000D reel-to-reel tape recorder. It was the, apart from a Ferrograph, which was the excuse me, the Rolls Royce, this was the bee's knees, if you're old enough to remember it. Above that is a Kef speaker, 100-watt speaker that I built in the 70s, and the BBC used to use Kef. Next to that is oh, I've forgotten, but it's a good speaker and a well-known name. I've forgotten it. And then there's behind me it's my kind of cantilevered sculptural bookcase that goes right up into the roof, because this is a split level studio, and just behind my left shoulder is a staircase, and I've been renovating this house for the last 30 years or so. However, what else have we got? Oh, let's do a bit of BB King again. This is my therapy for the day. Thrill is gone. Forgot what key it's in. Oh dear. I don't even know the names of all the chords. That's G. That's F sharp. I think that's C minor. Levels all right. I can't really hear myself. About woodworking. I've been woodworking for about 50 years. Still learning. Tell me what sort of woodwork. You've got a problem, a woodworking problem. Maybe I can answer it. When Gary Moore and BB King did this one together, check it out on YouTube. Absolutely fabulous. There's some tunes you can just listen to all the time. Mortis and Tenons joints. I don't know why people still do Mortis and Tenons joints. We're living in the 21st century. There's so many other joints that do the same job. We're very traditional, a lot of us woodworkers. I'm not. I'm a rebel. I learned the traditional way and then I rebelled against it. But yeah, they're hard to do. Yeah, it's one of the problems is excuse me, is getting the cheeks to line up. If that's the mortise, that's the tenon, and getting them to line up. Are you with me that way? In other words, it's all in the cutting of the mortise, getting that absolutely parallel to the cheeks of the piece of wood. It's not easy. I used to teach sitting guilds. I taught sitting guilds carpentry to people who'd had a drug addiction problem, and it was unbelievable. Some of them were ex-heroin addicts, very sad. And I started off with 6 students, and I got 3 of them through Sitting Guilds carpentry, and I tell you, that is not an easy exam. And you know, these poor guys, some of them had really jittery fingers because of the drugs. However, let's be positive. And yes, why do they still teach it? Why? I find it really baffling that in just about every other area of human activity, we are progressive. We don't just fly rockets to the moon, we fly them to the outer planets. I mean, there's one that's going to catapult around the Earth and go off to Mars, and even wacky people like Elon Musk. Imagine him doing dovetail joints and Mortis and Tenons, and yet, you know, you can so easily offend woodworkers if you don't do it the traditional way. And I would say, look, challenge tradition, because tradition is a continuum. Tradition should move on, because what we're doing now become the traditions of tomorrow. But I had a problem with Mortis and Tenon, not heroin. Good, glad to hear that. So, what am I going to play? I'm using a foot pedal here with my synthesizer, so all my backing tracks are. This is this Masquerade. I do my own thing. Lost my way. Who are my favourite musicians? Well, I love Gypsy Jazz. I love Robin Nolan, Stachello, Rosenberg. Gary Moore was my all-time favourite. Do a lot of his backing tracks, and of course the whole genre of Gypsy Jazz I love. There's a masquerade. got an infestation of moths in my house. And apparently it's not the moths that eat your clothes, it's the larvae that have these horrible little pincer type jaws that go through everything. So I'm dreading looking in my wardrobe and discovering, and every time I kill one, I swap one. About half a dozen more come out of the woodwork. There's one there. They're elusive little buggers. Moths, they're tiny. At any rate, I bought some moth trap. Clothes moth trap. I don't know whether you can see it. Just finished writing a book called The Incredible Router, the revised edition. I wrote the first edition in 1989. It was a bestseller then, and I'm publishing this myself, but I have the challenge of selling it. You know, marketing is a totally different game. So please check out my yes, Traps with Hormones. You're right. Please check out my website and see what publications there, and please, you know, obviously all these videos are free. I've got over 750 videos that are free, but in order to fund these, I do actually have to earn a living and get some income in. So that's my little sales pitch. Please check out my book. It's had good reviews so far. I love the piano on this. Thank you, Graham, for your testimonial. You've ordered one. It's superb. Everything you'll ever need to know about routers and routing. Well, I hope I'd qualify that by saying hopefully everything you'll need to know in order to explore the full potential of a router, because the book, it is comprehensive, but I mean there are a lot of books that are 10 times that thick, and you know, credit to the Americans, the guy called Patrick Spielman. He was one of the real pioneers of the router. Published his book, I think, before I published mine in England. But it's an unbelievably precise, and just looking to see if I've got one. Normally I've got a router to hand, but it must be downstairs. But yeah, but do check out the book, and I've got a couple more books on the go. I've got here we are. I'm working currently on guitar making art. Well, you can see that. Got a bit of the chroma key showing through. It's not a transparent book. Let's try this camera. And that's actually featuring the guitar I'm playing. And I'm doing one on my design and making wood course, a unique integrated designing and making wood course, and also the art of the carpenter, which is really about the last 50 years of my woodworking design, and they're all in the same format. They're hardback books. So let's see what else we've got. Music. Let's play a bit of Eagles, or my interpretation of Eagles. Wheel Spy, get your workshop sorted. difference between a conventional router and a palm router. Now, by palm router, I think we call it in England a trimmer, but it's just a mini router. But basically, the one I've just got hold of is a fabulous little Makita, which has got various sub-bases. And the one I like is the one with handles. I've done a couple of videos. In fact, the book features online. It links in with online videos, so little Makita is featured in that. And cordless, of course, is a dream. I've been screaming about cordless routers for the last 35, 40 years. But you can do a lot with a little router. So to answer your question, there's not a big difference other than the size. And of course, the really big routers can take massive cutters. I was hoping to show some of my cutters. To show you one of my big cutters. Look at that, finger jointer, and that uses a 1/2-inch shank. And if you compare that to something like this one, where's the camera? Well, let's get the two shanks. It's so funny doing this the opposite way round. Yeah, so obviously these cutters like this are far more stout, capable of doing really sturdy work. But a little router, just like a little car, if you get there, probably won't get there much slower. You see, there's a really chunky cutter using a 1/2-inch shank. But the little palm routers, they will use a 1/4-inch or 8mm. There's that moth again. So, let's put this out of the way. Oh, surrounded with stuff. Should I automatically buy additional bases for the handheld? Well, it depends on what the model is, whether they do those accessories. But I know in America they have the porter cable type ones are screw-in, because I think the English tradition is the plunging. I prefer the plunging one. It's just that, it's the speed of plunging. Also, I've done a novel technique called fast plunging, fast plunge mortising, I think I'll call it. And you can chop out wood far more efficiently than running the router horizontally. So it was very sunny weather today, so let's do a little bit of Stevie Wonder. Headphones, that's the best way to listen. Maybe you're listening on a mobile phone. Tell me what you're listening on, what device you're using. That's my favourite. I'm using a 15-inch laptop with a 22-inch monitor, which is great for graphics work. And earbuds. I started off doing a live stream earlier on, but the comments weren't coming up, so I assumed nobody was watching, so I switched off. But it's nice to see I've got a small audience. I don't know how many people are watching, but one of the things I wanted to show was you know, you often don't know how good something is until you get it home, and I tried every earbud under the sun, and I find none of them have got a decent bass until I found the Sony. And good old Sony, I mean, all my video camcorders are Sony. For instance, this is my broadcast quality camcorder, and that's 4K. It's a beast. And the one I use, the camcorder, the Sony that I use, is tiny little beauty here that fits in my pocket, can take it anywhere, lovely HD. However, going back to the earbuds, I can't remember the model, and I'll put it in the description later, but of all the earbuds I've tried, these are the ones with the best bass. And you know what helps? You probably realise this, if you push them into your ears, the bass is about 20 times better. So I use these woodworking doobries. I forget what they're called. I mean, they're mini earplugs, and I've got to convert them, take the flats off, so that I can make these lovely dinky little lightweight earbud portable headphones. I love kind of tweaking things. If you look at the guitar center screen, I'm trying to point to it, I can't, it's below there, this guitar here, alright, it's a Hofner Shorty, and I milled out the middle because it's a solid electric guitar, and I turned it into a semi-acoustic. It's hanging up against my bookcase, and check it out on my YouTube channel. I've got a couple of videos I've done showing A, how I made it or how I modified it, and B, what it sounds like. But I have to say, this is my favourite playing guitar, my own Jazz Broun acoustic guitar, and yeah, ISO tunes. That doesn't mean anything to me. So you have to tell me what ISO tunes is. I play a gig with at a wine bar in Bath, with thinking, well, I suggested that we did a remote gig, so we're gonna use a metronome, and then one of the guys, our lead singer, there's that moth again, is going to sing a song, kind of lockdown blues song. And we're all going to play our separate instruments, you know, different guitars, bass, electric organ, and then I'm going to coordinate it all and edit it up so that you'll have, you know, all the musicians on the screen. I'm sure lots of people are doing that sort of thing, and using something called Zoom, but I don't know how to use that. It takes me so long learning. Now here's a bit of Spanish. Mucho. Nylon strings. They can't kind on my hands. Mucho, I think that's called. So, my husband just walked through and was commenting, oh, so R could be Roberta, or Ruth, or Rachel. I assumed, you see, so many woodworkers are men, one assumes that they're all men. But, whoops, now I've lost the comments box, so I can't actually see. We've got 7 watching. No deserters yet. We can't have deserters from the army, the woodworking and musical army. So what's next? Do ask me a question if you'd like. How are you getting on? Are you coping? Are you screaming to be on your own, or are you fed up with being on your own. Isn't it funny, the old yin yang in life? It's always one or the other. It's very happy to find a happy medium. There's a pun there, but I can't think of it. So let's scroll down and see what other comments there are. You won't go far wrong. We have the side of our garage and actually trying to improve it. Yeah, garage is a great space. You don't need huge space for woodworking. It just gets filled up with really big machines. Should I automatically buy? Oh yeah, did you say you released a book on how to make the guitar? Yeah, sure. And the book will have links to online videos. So this guitar, I will show how it is made. Sorry, I've lost my monitor. Everything can go wrong quite easily in this technology thing. My God, we are relying on technology. Imagine if the internet went down. Everybody's on WhatsApp and Skype and Zoom and text and this, that and the other. Unbelievable reliance on what is really a very fragile technology. You know, how, you know, in a nanosecond you can lose a connection. It's amazing. I mean, as a woodworker, I always survived by having lots of little irons and different fires. I never ever relied on one thing. And it was really bucking the trend at the time. Everybody said, oh, you should specialize. Well, I survived by being versatile, you know, at the risk of being a jack of all trades. Well, you know, that's somebody else's perception. But having different strings to your bow, I think is good. And the same with technology. I mean, I use a combination of, I use old-fashioned software. Like in the book, I actually did my own illustrations. But I also mixed in a bit of Photoshop. If you take this picture here of, oh, I can't see it now, an ads. That's just one of my line drawings. And then I put it through Photoshop and get a bit of colour on it. There's another one there, you see. Sorry, it's the chroma key is playing up a bit. It's a bit, unless you've got really good lighting, the chroma key doesn't work. The chroma key is where you use an artificial background. I'm actually using a green cloth behind me. And however, that's all technical stuff. I've forgotten what we were talking about. Susan. Hello, Susan. Well, I'm going to blow my horn here, Susan. I taught in many of the leading colleges in England and Ireland throughout the 70s, 80s and 90s, and at that time there was real prejudice against women, and I mean, I come from a family of 4 sisters, so men were in the minority there, definitely, and I just amazed at the chauvinistic attitude. It's taken many, many years for women to be encouraged to take up woodworking. I don't know whether you're from America, but you're probably far more progressive in America. But we're very backward in that way in Britain. Hello, Broun. Well, don't apologise for your absence, because I've been absent as well. You've been detained at somebody else's pleasure is no fun. Oh, I see. I can read in all sorts of things to that. But yes, I'm touch wood. I'm well, I hope. I mean, my God, this is the crazy thing about this virus. We can have it and not know we've got it. I mean, how on earth can they put a handle on it if you don't actually, if you think about it, it's simple mathematics. If X is an unknown quantity, then it doesn't matter what the rest of the equation is. There's no finite result, and it's all a guess. I'm almost beginning to believe David Icke, but I probably shouldn't bring him up and just stick to woodwork and music. There are no conspiracy theories in woodworking. It's all very matter-of-fact cause and effect stuff, which I think is great. I think woodworking is really grounding in a world that, you know, a crazy world. Things had to change. I'm very positive. Things will change, and the change will be forced on us because we won't volunteer the change. Because it's rather like greed. You can't have too much greed. You see, nobody will willfully pull back on greed, and human greed is what is killing the planet. I mean, I'm greedy. I've got about 20 routers. I mean, what's that? That's greed. If you look at it that way, it's certainly way in excess of my needs, and collecting tools and collecting stuff, and it's all adding junk to the planet. However, let's stick positive. I shouldn't get too philosophical. I've got a problem with blinking clothes moths that are ruining my wardrobe. And every time I kill one, about half a dozen more fly out. So please engage. Please, Southeast USA. And I've never been to the USA. I'm trying to think, what state would that be? Southeast. Not Texas. Texas is southeast, isn't it? Joe, you like the new background? Yeah, let's play around with backgrounds. Why not? In fact, let's just quickly flash through a few of my other backgrounds. That's my furniture background. That's another furniture background. That's my digital jukebox background, which has got a little running video. That's some of my doodle sketches. This is my guitar workshop background. That's guitar. That's some of the guitars I've made. I used this background the other day. I'm using something called OBS. It's fantastic software. And then this is my current background. And in fact, I've probably got a lot more. This is my YouTube channel background where I've got, these are a few of my YouTube. I'm going to leave this up here because these are some of my, this shows a variety of my YouTube videos. And for instance, the one bottom right, what can you do with a router? I've got 2.3 million views on that, which is pretty good. And I think my viewings range probably from about, I don't know, 500. I don't know what the average is, but you know, probably the average, I don't know. I mean, I've got about 3 over the million mark. And it's weird, you never tell. You know, something, I wouldn't say my videos go viral, but it's a funny old thing. You can't really plan it. You just put out stuff, and if people like it and then they make comments, then I suppose YouTube likes it and starts promoting it more. I don't know how it works, but it's a bit like I always think the internet is like a big wheel and a person with a pair of binoculars, and all they see is the top of the wheel, and that wheel is millions and millions of different websites all fighting to be within the range of the binoculars. It's a rather simple analogy. So here's one of my publications, and there's a router. One of my next YouTube videos is going to be on tool sharpening.
Well,
What's that one? That's a kind of varied one. This is some of my very early work. I went to Shoreditch College and I did a kind of mixed materials course, although I specialised in advanced woodwork. I can't believe how every time I try and grab one of these moths, I don't know whether the turbulence in your fist actually blows it away, but I cannot catch them. It's really irritating me. So some of my designs, this is basic woodwork, simple projects, which on my website there are various projects. A zigzag table. All right, let's get back to the one I'm using, which is this one. Little tour of my backgrounds. So vacuum up the moths. Oh, that's a good idea. I've got a little that's the great thing about woodworkers, they're so creative. They think outside the box. I've got a little Makita cordless vacuum cleaner. I bet it doesn't work. They're really smart because I've got a massive great fan, because the top of my house, the attic, gets really hot. All the heat rises in the summer and it's like an oven, and that fan will suck out anything. But I've used this sticky paper moth trap. I caught 3 of them in about 10 minutes. But how do you make your videos? Which software? I use Pinnacle Studio. It's really easy. It's point and squirt, and I started using version 8 in the days of Windows 98, and you know that wasn't that long ago. And then I progressed to Windows 21, which is just too many bells and whistles, crazy. And it was taken over by a company called Avid. So the best one I use is version 15. It's fantastic because it's just right. You don't need millions of mixes and transitions, but it's so intuitive. And I mean, it's not an industry standard. It's a DIY. I mean, check it out, Pinnacle Studio, and I would definitely recommend version 15. And I managed to run it on Windows 8. A friend of mine did a few tweaks to get it to run on Windows 8. It does crash occasionally, but not that often. A long wand in the vacuum, the moths might not react to the air movement, so that's clever. What, does the wand stop the turbulence? I don't know. Have I got a background in making videos? Well, that's thank you for asking me that, because I'll tell you a little story. In 1986, I sold a rather large house that I'd renovated, and I went to Australia. To cut a long story short, I was fed up with England and I wanted to emigrate. And in fact, some of the videos I'm editing, I'm going to put on YouTube of my travels to Australia. Really, I met a lot of the woodworkers there, and this is how I'm spending my time during lockdown. Been spending hours today. So I came back and I decided to sell the big house, and I had a few debts. Nothing really. I owed about 12 grand, which is nothing, but I'm the sort of person who doesn't sleep at night if I owe money. I'm very old-fashioned. I'm Scottish and was brought up in a pretty Spartan way. And you only spent money that you actually owned, that you had. So I sold the house and I invested 20 grand in filmmaking equipment. And at that time I used industrial quality VHS, and I tell you, it was fantastic. The whole imagery was better than a lot of digital. A lot of digital can be very flat. It's rather like digital music rather than, you know, vinyl, linear music, whatever it's called. So now I've lost my train of thought. I applied. I was fed up with woodworking. I found it very introverted. I was at the top of my tree. I was, if you like, an A-lister, exhibiting with people like John Makepeace. I was one of about a dozen furniture designer makers, all the major exhibitions, even exhibited in America. But I found it very introverted, very solitary, and my youth was waning away. You know, I kind of gave my youth to my craft. And when I went to Australia, I bought a camcorder, and I didn't actually have permission for the bank for the overdraft, but I'm going to reply to your comment about the Scottish in a moment. You're not going to get away with that one. They're careful, not mean. And yeah, I didn't have the permission of the bank manager, but I was out of the country for 6 months, so I bought a little camcorder. It was a JVC VHS-C camcorder, which is mini VHS. That's the size of the tape, and some of you might be familiar, and that's the size of a normal VHS tape. And I did a lot of documentary filmmaking in Australia, you know, opal mining underground, etc., which I'm going to put up on YouTube. 35 years old, and it's as fresh as though it was yesterday. But yes, so I applied. I came back. I thought woodworking. My furniture designs were landing up in galleries, which were very snobbish, very intimidating places, very silent places, and you'd have the name. You know, it was by John Makepeace or Jeremy Broun or whoever, and a price tag. That's all you had. It was a real snobbish field, and I didn't like that because I felt, well, you know, people are educated in wines and in gardening, you know, and people are knowledgeable about wines. So an expensive wine, they know what they're getting. With furniture, it was just a name. People didn't know the woods, blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to make film. I applied to 6 film schools and they all turned me down. I was 43 years old at the time and I was too old, can you believe it? So I taught myself, and to cut a long story short, I then pulled off a couple of national awards, which were huge encouragement. My first documentary was called 5 Ways to Fashion Wood, and the other one was So You Call That a Dovetail, which was everything but a dovetail, but exploring the concept of dovetail. So that was about design, and it's the one thing I love. And I set up my YouTube channel in 2009, and I will add that I did have 4 days experience with a broadcast company. A friend of a friend was a newsreader for HTV West, based in Bristol, and I got to meet a fantastic award-winning director called Trevor Hill, and he took me for 2 days out in the field, funnily enough filming a fellow furniture maker, Andrew Vara. They wanted to film me, but my workshop was too small, so I declined. And then I spent 2 days in the editing studio with him, and it really knocked the rough edges of my film making. And to be honest, I'm really staggered at the quality of some of the films on YouTube. I mean, when YouTube started, the quality was crap. I mean, you still get them, you know, with the camera all over the place, but it's so slick today. So yeah, so sorry, that was a rather long-winded, trying to kill these moths, a rather long-winded answer. So I'm trying to match a hutch I'm building to an old primitive maple bed, trying it in pine first, but that may have been a mistake. I don't really understand what you're saying. To make a hutch to an old maple bed. So I don't quite understand what you're asking. It's true what they say about the Scottish then, no offence. No, it's not true. The Scottish are careful. They're actually very generous people. They can be, but a lot of them are a little bit miserable, but then the weather isn't very good up there. Can we find your films? Well, yeah, they're on. Some of my films, obviously, I have to sell. They're on my Wood Domain website, wooddomain.com, but there are 750 of my diverse films on this YouTube channel that you can watch for free. Hey, I'm from Liverpool, so don't start. Well, you're a southerner to me then, Two Wheel Spy, because I'm from Scotland originally. You're all southerners to me. Oh dear, all these cedars away with moths. Yes, Graham, you're right. Fill your house with the scent. I'm going to do that as well. I probably left it too late. They probably had a right old picnic in all my best clothes. Oh dear. Yes, can I play? I will play. Latin American one. Play that as a background. beautiful, but it's doing nothing but rain because this global warming has shifted the whatever it is, El Nino band, where warm and cold air currents high up in the atmosphere meet, resulting in precipitation, and it's done nothing but rain in Scotland. And my friend of mine, who lives on the east coast, well, the east coast of Scotland is always traditionally very dry. The west coast, where I come from, is always wet and windy. But it is beautiful, and the Scots are mad to think of breaking away. I don't believe the majority of Scots want that. In any case, it doesn't make sense to break away from the UK and then join a much more bureaucratic organisation called the EU. But shut up, Jeremy. Don't do politics here. But I'm not a typical Scot. Not aggressive. It's paltry. Live vlogs once this coronavirus thing is finished. I've done a couple of vlogs on my motorbike. You should check out my channel if you're not a regular subscriber, because it really is diverse. I mean, to my detriment, a lot of woodworkers probably think, oh, we'll just stick to woodworking. Probably irritates them that I do other things, but it's very eclectic. I mean, that's the person I am. I've got a variety of interests. My core interest is using my hands and my brain, hand and brain, creative, innovative, making things, designing things. If I had to make a choice between making and designing, I think I'd probably go for designing, because making takes so long and I can do it. You know, if you wrote me out a blank check, I'm not bragging, if you wrote me out a blank check, then I would throw all the craftsmanship in the world. Because if you've got enough time, you can get it perfect. So, but I'm not into that. Life is too short. You've seen all my videos, my God, even the motorbike ones. Sorry. Well, thank you. Thank you, not sorry. The volume slipped again. Can't really hear you with the music on. Right. Yes, I did think, Joe, of starting up a separate channel. What happened was, a few years ago, I kind of put it to the vote. I asked, I made a very short video asking my subscribers at the time, I think I had about 50,000 subscribers, would they prefer it as it is or specialist? And I just counted out, it was a very limited survey. I mean, it was probably about 20-30 people replied, and the majority said no, stick to this rather eclectic, because it's all related in a way. I mean there are so many specialist woodworking channels. I mean, there are hundreds of them. So mine is a bit different. Mine focuses on woodworking, but it's not exclusively woodworking. And the fact that I do outdoor woodwork as well as very fine, you know, instrument making or trinket boxes or very, very precise joints and boat building, it's. But I did start off with a music channel. I think it's still up there. I think it's called Acoustic Fusion. Any suggestion where to get good hardware like hinges and locks for jewellery boxes? Brusso's seems too fancy though, although good quality. thanks for the suggestion. Is this our wind or Susan wind? You are suggesting that I play some music a bit while you ask the questions, then you read them and answer. Yes. Yeah, I'll do that. It's just that I don't know what you guys want. You know, I sometimes, well, I very rarely, but occasionally watch. Occasionally I watch this guy, what's his name, woodworking for Mere Ramsey. I mean, he's a real YouTuber. I mean, he comes up with titles like "Why I'm Quitting YouTube," and then he sucked you in. But he obviously likes the sound of his own voice. And I'm not being offensive to him, but a lot of people do. And actually, I'm not that bothered about the sound of my voice, but I feel that I've got to say something if the questions aren't coming in. And then I can do a monologue, like banging on about my filmmaking career. See, normally I can edit this down, but with live stream, the whole lot, warts and all, goes up there. And the music and the Raffo Belver, yeah, the kit car, which I haven't touched for a while. Oh, there aren't enough hours in the day. Terry Pratchett's character Runtswind. Oh, I see. Oh, I never read Terry Pratchett. Sorry, I'm an ignoramus. So, what shall I play? I've got a Shadows medley. Some Gypsy Jazz. Tell me what to play next. Girl from Ipanema. Bit more Gypsy Jazz. Bit of blues. Gypsy Jazz, okay. This is my interpretation of a tune called Troublon Bolero. It's a beautiful tune. I hope I don't ruin it. And I've done a backing. I'm using a backing. And I think it was composed in 1940 by Django Reinhardt. So that was Troublon Bolero, and maybe a bit of Shadows. I haven't played that for a while. My suggestion that we talk questions while you play music is that we only want to listen. God, trying to kill this moth, tiny little clothes moth. Thank you very much for your company, Graham. I'll play the Shadows then for you. But I won't be offended if you leave halfway through, because it is 7 minutes long. This is my Shadows medley. last one is Apache, my variation of it. Shadows medley. So, a broad question, advice on finishing. Don't overfinish. It's horses for courses, because yeah, cherry, oak, maple and poplar. I don't think I've ever used poplar. It's supposed to be quite an easy wood to use, but I've made a lot of furniture out of cherry and oak and maple. Maple's a lovely wood. But finishing, yes, it's the holy grail of woodworking. Finishing and sharpening chisels and cutting dovetail joints. It's horses for courses. It depends what it's for. You know, there's oils, there's lacquers. You either seal the wood or you let it breathe. Maybe you've got a specific. Good night, Graham. Thank you very much for tuning in. Sleep well. Yes, finishing. You know, you might want a high lacquered finish. I always went for a slightly matte finish, and I used polyurethane, matte polyurethane. Diluted the first coat about 20%. Put a second coat on, denibbed it, and then put a final coat on. If you put any more than 3 coats on, then it starts looking a bit plastic. But I've also used epoxy, resin, especially for boat building. So how are we doing? I'm just going to see how long I've been playing for. It's good, we've got quite a lot of questions this evening. Got 8 people viewing. And well, isn't that funny? Because I always begin to wonder how long I've been playing after about 1 hour 30 minutes. That's really weird. 1 hour 28 minutes. I'm beginning to think I've been playing for too long. And that's the other amazing thing about YouTube. I'm an Aquarian, so I'm one of these people who looks from the outside in. and I try and visualize who my audience is. And of course, I can't see you, I can't hear you, and I don't know whether you're coming and going, whether you're in bed, whether you're in an armchair, whether you're outdoors, whether you're, you know, a lumberjack at the top of a tree watching this through a mobile phone. I've really no idea. But in the back of my mind, I'm aware that although the majority of YouTube videos should be very short, and I think the guide, the yardstick I always use was under 3 minutes. So I try and keep most of mine under 5 minutes. But occasionally you can do a really long one. And I think I did a 45-minute documentary on called A Very English Maker on a friend of mine. It's a really good film. A lot of work went into that. And then I'm doing these occasionally. I think I've done half a dozen of these live streams that go up to I think one's actually 2.5 hours long. But I thought, well, why not? Because somebody might be ill in a hospital bed, and they just enjoy a tiny bit of quiet banter in the background with some easy listening tunes. And I thought, why not? You can switch off. There's no fixed rules. If nobody watched these videos, then I would say I've got something badly wrong, you know. But I'm not after mass audiences. I don't think I'm that kind of guy that would command really mass audiences. But so I just think it's interesting. It's a truly interactive medium. The comments on my YouTube channel are what makes my channel. It gives me guidance. You know, I do my own thing, but it steers me in a direction. You know, there's some YouTubers who are total slaves because it's all about capitalism. It's getting the maximum hits, and they ask you to subscribe before you've even seen the video, which I think is rude, actually. I'd rather earn my brownie points. I'd rather ask you to subscribe towards the end, if I ask you at all. I think you'll subscribe if you want to, and you won't, you know, well, you shouldn't be bullied into it. It's all this rapid fire. But it's a wonderful medium. There are so many. I mean, I've got one or two favourites. There are one or two guys I find their pace of delivery and their clarity, if I want to learn something, usually something high-tech, is so good that I stick with them. But a lot of it is really in your face, high-speed talking, and it's like wacky, over the top. And I guess it's a generational thing. I'm showing my age, that it just doesn't cut with me. But I'd like to think that my channel appeals to all ages. You know, I mean, when I reviewed my KTM RC390 motorbike, the majority of owners of that bike are kids in their early 20s, late teens. And here I am. I'm not going to disclose how old I am, but I'm no kid. But one of my favourite YouTube channels, I don't really. Well, I'm watching this really wacky guy called Andy Kirby because he's doing a series on electric bikes and also the Renault Twizy smart car, because I'm into electric vehicles in a very small way, and I bought a Renegade electric bike that I'm going to make street legal, and I've been following him, and he's a real YouTube personality. I mean, he did a stream the other night, and I asked him a question. And he was getting so many questions in, I had to ask the question several times. And then somebody put up a comment to stop the trolls. But I was trying to get him to answer a question, but he was so popular, this guy. And but yeah, so there are one or two. I did watch for a little while that German guy, what's his name? Because he's the kind of mother of all woodworking, Matthias Wandel. And I mean, he got something like 25 million views for basically intimidating a mouse, you know, in a trap, watching it. It was kind of voyeurism, and I thought, well, he's okay, but I don't follow him, and I don't occasionally watch Rob Cosman. I quite like Rob. But I don't think much of his live streaming. I don't tell him this, but he makes too many mistakes. I mean, I know I do. I am an R a lot, but I think you've really, I mean, you've got to cut your cloth accordingly. You know, I've got a musical instrument which I'm referring to. I'm playing occasionally. I'm answering questions. I'm not doing sort of highly detailed demonstrations that involve a lot of, you know, woodworking demonstrations that involve a lot of planning. That's exactly why you do a conventional video, because you cut it up, you edit it, and you deliver, you know, you condense it down into a script. Matthias thought was Canadian. Maybe he is. I just thought he was a German American, but maybe Matthias is. But I mean, he's in a league of his own. And he's a very inventive guy, so I guess that YouTube is his sole interest. Do I stain or dye? I very rarely stain wood. I'm just trying to think what the difference between a stain and a dye is. I think they're the same. I mean, you either use a water-based stain or a spirit-based one, and I used to use Dylon fabric dyes because water tends to penetrate deeper, but you've just got to sand the grain down because it raises it, and then do it again. But the few times I use a dye, I suppose stain almost implies wood colour, like mahogany, oak, pine, and a dye could be any colour. I don't know, but I thought they're the same. Oh, I'm glad I've got a customer for my book, which I am writing this year, called, oh no, I've written that one. It's called, running out of space to put things on, Guitar Making Art. It's going to be focused around this one, but it's really thinking outside the box, not have a lot of electronics in it. Not that I am an expert, but I draw on other expertise, and then it will link up to online videos, so I might even include some chords and stuff. I've also got an ebook called Acoustic Guitar Easy Build. That's actually on my website, and that's got about 40 different videos. That is a massive project. However, feel free to send me a signed copy. Well, you're going to have to buy it, Two Wheel Spy. But of course, I sell my books directly, so they're all signed copies. A stain and a dye do different things, are they? I think they're probably cultural, you know, like national differences. Maybe the Americans call and the English call it different. I think they do the same thing. So, okay, so of course I'll buy it. I may be from Liverpool, but that doesn't mean I'm planning on stealing it. Okay, thank you. Oh dear, it's just I'm getting used to a world where everybody expects everything for free online, and I think, how do people survive? I've nothing against Liverpudlians. In fact, my favourite music comes from Liverpool, in the name of four guys with rather odd looking haircuts in the 1960s, and I love them. And in fact, I'm gonna do a Lennon-McCartney one, which I'm still learning actually, called And I Love Her. learning a song, it takes quite a while before it becomes muscle memory. Okay. Yes, I do have the Raffo kit car running, but still work to do, but it is street legal. I haven't driven it much recently. Okay, so I'm getting a little bit past my sell-by date. I've been on air for about an hour and a half. I've enjoyed interacting with my audience, and I'll probably do another one sometime. Tend to do them best on the spur of the moment. I hope it's helped you with this lockdown. How are you dealing with it? How long is it going to go on for? It's quite worrying because people are itching to get back to normality, but you know, what's normality? Normality is a mad rush for many people. Planet needs to slow down. Oh, happy Easter to you, Joe. Yeah, I didn't even know it was Easter. I never celebrate it. I mean, it's a family thing. All these holidays are family things. If you don't have a family, then why do you celebrate it? It's just another day to me. And it's good to have projects. That's what I'm trying to do, is fill up my day. I mean, I can't, I have my off moments. I mean, I've been working solidly at the computer all day, editing some really great video from my trip to Australia. And it was all on VHS, and it's taken me ages just tweaking it to get the very best quality out of VHS. There's so much you can do digitally to enhance stuff. And then once it's done, it's there, it's an archive. You do a backup and it's there. It's wonderful. I mean, some of this VHS tape has survived 35 years and there's very little dropout. The only dropout on some of the tapes is where I probably left the tape cassette next to a strong magnet, like near a loudspeaker, kind of stupid stuff. It's a fake life in a fake world. Well, we're really messing up this planet. There's no question about it. I mean, just apparently, I forget where it was. It was some famous mountain. They said you could actually see it from a distance because there wasn't the city smog that blocked it. And these growth economies, it's madness. You cannot keep on growing. I mean, uncontrolled growth in nature is a cancer. So when is somebody going to come up with a clever alternative? I mean, will we really go back to barter? And I mean, barter already happens. But I don't know, there's so much, there's like no limit to greed. And I think the great thing about woodworking is it does ground you. I don't think there are many very greedy people who are woodworkers, because you need a lot of patience for a start to master this craft. It doesn't just suddenly happen. You've got to put in the hours. It's like guitar playing, really. You've got to put in the 10,000 hours to be a lead player, which I'm not, because I'm self-taught, very limited, and I'm not that fast. But yeah, it's a real opportunity, this. I mean, my only, not that I've got any wisdom to pass on, but I can only say how I've survived, because I've actually had to survive solitude big time for many years. To cut a long story short, I had a lovely girlfriend and she wanted more commitment, and we split, and that was back in 1995, and I had kind of family life with her. I wasn't married to her and I didn't live with her, but I met up with her, and she just wanted more, and I couldn't come up with the goods. But I've been on my own since, and it's a struggle, and I'm actually used to I'm trying to capture that moth. I'm used to this solitude, but in a way you never get used to it. And so the only thing I can impart is variety. Even if you stick your head out of the door and take deep breaths of the fresh air. I mean, I went out on my electric bike for half an hour, and after being cooped up, I haven't been out for 3 days, and I needed to go out and get some food, and I've got no time for all this greedy, terribly selfish bulk buying. Hoarding is terrible. It's shamefully selfish, because it means if you've got the money you can stock up your fridge for months' supply, and it deprives other people. and there are lots of changes that are going to happen, like the whole supply chain and the just-in-time system of manufacture. But I'm a guilty culprit. I bought these headphones off Amazon. I ordered it 11 o'clock one night. The next day it was delivered, and if I don't like it, I can send it back. Well, it can't go on. Just the packaging alone, and goodness knows how the drivers are paid, whether they're on piece rate. But it's consumerism can't carry on, so it's hard to know. Too many people chasing money without understanding why. I know we're so indoctrinated. We follow. The problem is human beings learn by copying, and they copy role models, whether the role models are their parents. Joe said somebody cleverer than me than that said money is the slave of a wise man and the master of a fool. Yes. Do I think the younger generation don't appreciate older music? Well, I am very reluctant to make generalizations about the younger generation in the same way that I would hope the younger generation wouldn't make generalizations about me, that we're old farts and old timers and we're on the scrap heap. And so I think you can't blame the young people. Music is a very generational thing. There's the Beatles generation. I am the Beatles generation. Then there was the David Bowie and the punk rock generation. And these people take the music to the grave. It's what they're brought up with. Because, during the years when we were all romancing for the first time, it really embeds in your psyche the music you're brought up with. So I wouldn't blame the young generation for following whoever they follow. I don't even know who. Adele, she's probably old hat. Taylor Swift, whoever they are. But I am surprised, because I play gigs in a wine bar where there are all ages, that younger people also like the classics. There is a danger of lack of education where they don't know who the Beatles are. And you have to remind people. It's like history. History is so important. I've studied the history of my craft, and that's how I become an innovator, because I know the history. I practice the history, and also it teaches you a hard lesson that you may think you've reinvented the wheel. Somebody else might have invented it a few years earlier. But the whole thing about Gypsy Jazz is I blame the radio presenters. They won't play it on the radio. I do not believe it. A couple of times it sneaked onto the radio. Marks and Spencer's television adverts used a bit of Gypsy Jazz. It has increased in popularity, but my God, I don't understand why it isn't mainstream. Because if you tune into YouTube and watch some of the greats like Johnny Hepper, the Rosenberg Trio, Robin Nolan, the French guy. There's a handful of them. They are fantastic. They are technically on a different planet, and musically and emotionally, it's a beautiful genre. But maybe it's good that it's not mass culture. Maybe if it was mass culture, it would be devalued. Who knows? But people only know what they're exposed to, and I think it's up to my generation, which I'm trying to do in my own field, is to hand down. If you look on my website, a lot of my history, my videos, are archives of very valuable history, because once they stop teaching that in the schools, it will be lost. It will be a lost culture. You cannot get it back. I think musically, the Brits, I think we're very lucky. I think we've got something special. The Brits and the Americans, whether it's in the genes, I don't know, but the music of even going back to the 40s, the 50s. Summertime was composed by an almost nondescript person in 1956, I think. Um, and a lot of the gypsy jazz music I play is 1940s, and then there was the whole jazz and swing thing in America. It's very exciting. It's so I think anybody who's a musician, and I've only fairly recently um, been good enough to perform publicly, um, and I play with guys who are a lot more talented than me. I'm actually the organizer, so I hold it together, and I add my bit. But they're the main energy. They're fantastic talent. But it's a gift. I mean, musicians are so bloody lucky. You've got an instant audience. I mean, when I spent months making a piece of furniture that would sell for quite a lot of money, would sell through a gallery, sell to somebody I never met, in a house that I never visited, and it was a very isolating experience making furniture. But with music, it's instant. And I filled in one evening and did a solo the whole evening at the wine bar, and because we'd misbooked somebody, and I said, well, look, I'll fill in if you like. And he said, give it a go. And I just happened to hit it off with a couple of tables of they were tourists from America, and I was doing this Pink Floyd stuff. And I'm not really a solo performer. I mean, I can do this sort of thing because it's very laid back and it's very come and go. But in a wine bar, live music, and I was amazed, but I couldn't have repeated it. It was just a moment thing. It was a chemistry, it was the interaction of the people. And that's the wonderful thing about live music. And as the organizer of it, it's called Jazz Fusion at a wine bar in Bath, the biggest, most central wine bar in Bath, which is a major tourist city in England. So it's a great venue. My ambition is to get people dancing by the end of the evening. That to me is a successful gig. And the guys I play with, they play, a mixture of country music, rock and roll, everything, Beatles, Everly Brothers, Eagles. We do all the popular favourites, 60s and 70s, and we've got great singers. And we're going to do an online remote gig. So please follow my channel, see what's on, and thank you very much for tuning in. It's about 9:45 now, and I think I've been at it for about 2 hours, getting my daily practice in. But don't worry, just live for the moment, take deep breaths, and follow the advice. If they say lockdown, we have to. This is an invisible. I mean, it's unreal. I watch the news and it's depressing. I mean, the numbers are still going up in England, and there are people out picnicking, and we've got an Easter holiday as though they're just totally unaware. And keep well. Look after yourself, and wear a mask. When I wore a mask, I was one of the few people in my town wearing a mask. Now everybody's wearing masks. It's amazing how quickly it's changed. Anyway, well, thank you for helping me through lockdown. It's a two-way thing. I mean that. I mean, I'm here, all I'm doing is I'm providing a facility, I'm playing my guitar as fill-in, I'm waffling about whatever comes into my head or whatever you ask me. And it's this interaction that's very important. And so hopefully I'll see you guys again. And just take every day as it comes. Tomorrow's a fresh day, and there are some good people out there. The nurses, the medical people, I mean, they are risking their lives. I mean, I've been watching a lot of the videos on YouTube. I don't want to depress you on the goodbye. In fact, it's a positive. Through this storm, the black clouds, comes a silk purse, comes the very best of human nature. Things will have to change. They couldn't carry on the way they were, and things will change for the better. And we will survive. However, It's 9:45 here in England, and I'm going to say goodnight and thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you again soon. Yes, before I go, I'm probably using the wrong respirator. I'm using a woodwork one, which I think is for particulates, but you're using an NP99, which is for finishing, which is for chemicals. And yeah, there's an animated video on YouTube. Watch it. It animates a sneeze in still air, and how far they represent the sneeze in coloured little balls in the air. It's animated, and it spreads, I would say, about 20 feet. And that, any protection has got to help, I would have thought. However, I wish you good night and hope to see you again sometime soon.